Someone's just said, Charlie babe, you're looking fire. How do you look so good in a dressing gown? Couldn't agree more, babes.
Oh, thank you. I'm having a horrible day, so.
Oh, stop.
I mean, the irony that it's World Mental Health Day and I'm like a mess. I'm gonna get back in bed after this.
Oh, I love you for doing this. That is the very essence of someone, you know, how much you care and what a good person you are.
No, I think it's just the essence of the day as well. It's good not to sugarcoat it and make sure that we don't, when we're talking about mental health, just be like, yeah, just like, just like, you know, like it's important to just like be real.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, look, I mean, so look, before we talk about that, I suppose there's two things that I want to talk about. Firstly, why we're doing this, and then a little bit about you, and everyone on here will know you. And actually, this is from our side on Instagram now. This is the highest number of views that we've had. Because I think you're very important. So for me, I met Charlie. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. We did.
I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, for one of our clients, and Charlie came and spoke at an event with us. Charlie is an award-winning trans activist from London, founder of Nail Transphobia, and recently made it into the Independent Rainbow List, coming 40th in the list of 101 most influential LGBTI people in the UK. She is a radical and influential voice in the fight for equality. In 2017, publishing her first book, To My Trans Sisters, a collection of letters by successful trans women, and which is obviously what we have written down. But you know, on a really personal note, I was very blown away when I first met you. Just by, I don't know, like how important your journey is, how calm and how humble and how kind you are in sharing it, and that goes in the difference that you're making. And I feel very, very, very honoured that you're here today and that you're talking to us, because you are genuinely, you're one of those wonderful humans that you get to meet, and you know, I think sharing your story on a day like today is incredibly important. It really is.
So kind. That is so kind. Thank you, Kate.
You're very welcome, and that's why we're doing this, right? So you know, World Mental Health Day. Frankly, I think every day should be World Mental Health Day, but I hope that this stuff lives on, you know, and I think that, fuck me, this year has been hard, right? But then it has been hard, but I don't know about you. I mean, because there's a real recognition about how hard it is, but actually there's a lot of hardship going on, you know, every single day. And, you know, and I think that the more awareness that we have for the fact that it is hard and that we have challenges and that actually everyone's going through it, the better. And I think that, you know, if we can all share what's going on with our lives a little bit more, and the inspirational people that we can meet along the way who've been through it and who have found ways of dealing with this stuff, and we can share that, then all the better, which is exactly what today's about. So we've called the series What's Your Story, and that's why I'm very honoured that you're here to talk about yours. So hello.
Hi, Kate. Hello. Thank you for having me, babe.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited that you're here, and I'm sorry that you're having a crappy day. I really am. Talk to me. What's going on at the moment? How are you feeling?
Do you know what? It's not even a crappy day. It's like a crappy, you know, it's just been a crappy time, like a crappy 3 years. I was going to say 3 years because that's when kind of I had a bit of a breakdown about 3 years ago. But then even looking back, I'm like, it was before that. Like I pinpoint all my sadness on the thing that makes most sense. Like, oh, the grief because I lost my best friend, but really like it's before that I was suffering from depression. So like I think I'm just coming to terms with the fact that it's not as simple and linear as I kind of make out to myself. I'm like, oh, I'm sad because my best friend was killed, but really I'm sad for a reason I don't know, which is
that's really interesting, isn't it? You know, and a lot of people today have talked a lot about the link between physiology and psychology, you know, the physical health and managing stuff within ourselves, and the constant impact that has on how we're thinking and feeling. And get that, right? I get that. And you know, I suppose then my question to you, like if you feel like it's something that's been going on long, can you talk to us a little bit about it? And you know, I'm sure most people here will know your story, but please do share it, because I think it's, you know, the lesson, the things that you've learned along the way are so important to others.
You mean like my transition type story?
Absolutely. And the experiences that you had with that as well, I guess.
Yeah, so like it kind of, a lot of my mental health stuff definitely ties into that, because it's not an easy walk, you know. I probably realized I was trans when I was like 4. Like I was vocalizing to my mum that I felt like a girl, but I didn't obviously have the words for like being trans back then. I didn't even know being trans was a thing back then. So like it's hard, because I think that's part of the reason why I struggled so much, and why people kind of every generation before the generation growing up now will have struggled, because we just didn't have the vocabulary. It wasn't part of our cultural conversations, you know what I'm saying? So we were suffering from something that we didn't have a name for. So I wasn't like, I was about 11 maybe when I saw a trans person for the first time. I saw Nadia, Big Brother, obsessed. Love her.
Have you met her?
I met her, but she messaged me and said she loves nail transphobia, which was the
amazing.
best day of my life. She's like my idol. She's literally like everything to me.
I love that.
And I see so much of her in my womanhood now. Like I learnt my womanhood like she was like my first representation of a trans woman. So I see a lot of her in me. But yes, I really struggled, because I didn't have a word for how I felt. And then the world was telling me, like, so I grew up on a council estate in a very kind of like, you know, council estate is quite a macho, toxic masculinity environment. And then my family's a very macho, like all my brothers are like straight masculine boys. And then like I went to an all boys school, which was really tough. And so like it was like all these kind of external influences telling me that I was wrong for being feminine. And like I really started internalizing that and hating myself. And then that meant that when like I left my council estate, or I left school, or I left my brothers or whatever, I still like the problem didn't go away. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's because you've internalized it and it's become you. So
and that's super interesting, isn't it? Because I wonder if there was almost an expectation that this release was going to come, right? The release is going to come. I'm leaving. Everything's going to be all right. And actually, this shit's still here.
Like I thought everything would change once I left school. I was really badly bullied in school for being LGBT, and I thought, oh, it's all going to be great once I leave school. Like my like suicidal thoughts are going to end, and they got worse, if anything. And it's like that's why I feel like there needs to be more discourse around that. Like it's painted like it's a really, like I said, linear thing, but mental health is not linear at all. And yeah, you do like your conditions, like those 7 years, they might have ended, like the school might have ended after 7 years, but that's 7 years of conditioning and learned behavior and learned mental hurdles that you're jumping through every day to protect yourself in like a place that you're unsafe. So like, yeah, like and then I came out as trans after I left school. I went to art school, which was much more accepting. But then when I was around gay people, finally, I realized, oh, I'm not gay. Like, I had always been told, like, people were telling me I was gay before, and I thought I was gay. So, like most feminine boys, like, you're bullied for that very early. Like, I was probably like 7. And then when I was like 19, 18, and that's when I realized I was like, oh, I'm not gay. That's really weird, because I'd always thought I was, because I'd been told I was from so young. And then I realized I'm trans. So like there's a big difference between being feminine and being female. And then again, with the whole linear thing of like, you think then, oh, now I know I'm trans and I transition, everything's going to be great now. Again, it wasn't great. Like, it's not like this, like Disney kind of narrative of like the happy ending. No, it wasn't. And this is kind of the thing in my life where it's just like lots of parallels of just things not being kind of what you expect. So I thought I'd be fine then, and then my mental health dipped again, because then with just the way I was being treated for being trans, I started getting more and more suicidal, because I was just being treated like shit every day. Like, and it was again, I was internalizing it, and like so it's a lot. Like, it's been a hard. I mean, there's people who have a lot harder walks than me, but for me, it's been harder. Like, enough. I don't think I could deal with any harder.
I don't know. And I don't know who could. And that is so much, isn't it? And it's like, but then I hear you, this powerful woman, like who the energy who's gone through that, and to still do the stuff that you do, with the male transphobia, I mean, turning that pain into something genuinely purposeful that is not only going to influence your life, but those of others, that could have gone so many different ways. What was that moment? How did you turn that thing from there to something different?
Do you know what it is? I think that's what we have to do in life. Everyone, not just trans people, we need to find a way to find that kind of glimmer of hope and that positive kind of lining in our negative experiences to be able just to get on with life and not kill ourselves and be able to sleep at night, and to be able to move on and heal so that we're not like jaded and bitter and tainted by our experiences. And if I hadn't done something positive from my negative experiences, I would have been consumed by the trauma. Absolutely. So it was my way of dealing with, it was my way of processing the negativity by basically, I can't stop these people who are abusing me every day, but I can do something about it and start a campaign that's about challenging that and putting out more people into the world who would say something when they see someone like me being abused. And that's my way of kind of dealing with the trauma.
Can I just say, Leia's just said, I love you, Charlie. You are sensational. Like, I couldn't agree more. And well put, Leia. And, I love Leia. She's wicked, isn't she? It's really interesting. Do you know, yesterday I interviewed an amazing man called Alex Lewis. And Alex, by his own admission, up until 2014, he was functioning alcoholic, right? And he was drinking 90 pints a week and 2 bottles of wine a day. Then one morning he woke up and thought he had man flu. 4 days later, he was in hospital, having actually had strep and becoming a quadruple amputee. And he now, obviously we're in 2020, but he now refers to himself, and I kid you not, he refers to himself as lucky. And he refers to himself, and he actually says if he had the option to go back and have all of his limbs back, he wouldn't have them back, right? And the reason that I'm saying this is because I don't want to detract from the darkness, of course, that he's gone through, and I don't think actually it's fair to say continues to, because in his own words, he said over the last 6 years, actually, he's only had about 5 or 6 times when he's felt truly down. But that moment was that he chose to step into it, right? He chose thing, and actually, rather than to continue, like he was in despair, he said this moment when his son walked in and his son was crying, was refusing to go over and see him, and he was just like, I don't want life to be like this. And actually, turning that around in that moment and actually deciding, right, I'm going to control how I am in this. That sounds a little bit, forgive me if I'm not really not trying to draw a comparison, but that for you was almost the taking the control back. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I think when you're facing struggles, whether they're to your mental or physical health, you don't have control over either your mental or your physical health. There's something none of us control. Obviously, we can do things that kind of limit the kind of, we can, like live a healthy lifestyle or like do things that are good for our mental health. But at the same time, you really can't control these things. So doing something to kind of pull that control back to yourself, like to regain that control and regain the kind of control of your life and the narrative and the power, of your life.
You've got the power, right?
Yeah. Flipping the narrative and flipping your perspective, changing your perspective, change your life. So yes. I went from being a victim of like hate crime pretty much every single day. There'd be at least comments every day, but I was getting attacked multiple times. Like it was just like on a weekly basis, like sexual, physical, whatever. And I flipped the kind of my perspective of myself being a victim to someone who was doing something about it. And I would never call myself a victim, but it's really important to try and grasp some control of your situation best you can, if you can.
I think, but you can, and I suppose, and that's at any moment, I think we do have, that's the one thing that we've got a choice over, right? That is the one thing that we have got a choice over, to think differently, to change our perspective in that moment. And in doing that, look what can happen from there. I suppose then the greater challenge though is there's something in the commitment then that's needed to it, because in that one moment, like you can do that in that moment, right? But fuck me, like a year down the line, when shit's still coming at us.
A year,
yeah,
now a week down the line, like I like, honestly, I've got like very little like willpower. Like I find it really hard. Like, I'll delete Uber Eats off my phone because I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat McDonald's every day. But then I'm like, if I get sad, I want a McDonald's. I had a McDonald's before this. Like I'm like, I want some chips. So it's really hard to kind of commit to your new narrative and your new perspective, and I get that. That's the hardest bit. But it really is just a case of a toe at a time, if you can, you know. Maybe it's not like deleting Uber Eats off your phone, but like cutting down your McDonald's a week, you know, cut it down to like one a week, you know, or something, and then one every 2 weeks, and then one every month, and then delete it off your phone.
What keeps you going in that? Because I think, you know, again, various conversations that I've had over the last few days. So Brandon Blocks, a big DJ, right, who talked a lot about, I mean, he had a very, very, very serious drug problem, right? And he talked about actually the thing that, the initial thing that kept him going was a clarity of a decision of actually, I no longer want life to be like this, right? I no longer want life to be like this. Is that the thing that helps with that commitment? Or is it like you said, like there, like, is it the baby steps? Is it day by day? You know,
when you're in a hole, it's so hard to get out.
Yeah.
So many people don't get out, you know, which shows how hard it is. So,
is there anything in particular that has a real impact on your mental health? And I mean that both, I guess, positive and negative. So I suppose the negative stuff that you're aware of, but positive stuff that you try and bring more of that in, so it helps you manage it.
Do you know what? For me, social media is like the good and the bad for my mental health. I find it so helpful for my mental health in ways that just like seeing people that bring some positivity into my life and make me feel like I can do it, and you know, like seeing people with similar stories and seeing people that just like make you happy and you feel good when you see it, like whether you know them or not. But then at the same time, there's so much on social media that I don't like. There's like lots of like, I mean, just to be honest, like even if I like, and this is how I've dealt with it basically, like I find it really hard just to even go on the explore page, because there'll always be something that kind of, people laugh at words like trigger, but triggers me. Like there'll be something that really annoys me, and like to like some straight boy, it's just a joke. Like they'll be making a joke about something, but to me, that's my life. Like I get really angry about things about like sexism, or like, you know, like even if it's just like a little gay joke, I'm like, I get really angry, so I don't want to see like anything. So my way of dealing with that is kind of like cultivating my own reality. So like only kind of like looking on I'll never look on my explore page, because I know that it's a trigger and it's going to make me go down a hole. So like I only like, obviously having only being able only to see my like who I follow, that means that it's kind of a curated kind of environment of people that I feel good when I see, and I'm not seeing content that's going to make me feel bad. So I think it's really important to just like understand that you have this power to kind of cultivate your own reality to an extent, even if it's just in online spaces. But we consume so much online space in our everyday lives, in email, social media, like everything on the internet, like it's really important to kind of understand that you have some sort of power over that. And again, it brings back that control thing.
Do you know what, that for me, that is so poignant, that point, and beautifully put. You know, I talk about it, you know, if I take it out, you know, beyond just social media, but in all of life, right? I refer to it as like the pie chart of our minds, right? I've only got so much time and energy, and my time and energy is my greatest commodity, without a shadow of a doubt. And I have to choose what stuff I put in that. I have to choose to put more good in than negative. And you know what, you know, with certain relationships in my life, one that's going on at the moment, and it's feeling really hot for me. It's feeling really fucking hot for me. And I know that as much as I want that relationship in my life, actually, it's bringing a lot of challenge. And I know that a lot of that stuff is down to my stuff, absolutely down to my stuff. But if it's triggering that stuff anyway, then it's probably not a good thing. And I think once you've got that awareness, you've got to act on it.
Understanding that you have some responsibility. Obviously, you can't control all factors of your life, like, but
Absolutely.
you do have control over who you hang out with, unless it's in like a school or work setting. But again, you could move schools or move a job if you really wanted to. But also, you choose what websites you consume. Don't look at Daily Mail if it's going to make you feel angry. Like, don't go to certain parts of town. Don't get a certain, like, for me, buses, I always get shit on buses for some reason, so I just don't get buses. Like, I will get a tube because I can move carriage and I don't have to wait 10 minutes for the next train because the next tube is 2 seconds away. Like, it's just understanding that you do have some control over your situation. I think this is the kind of theme that's gone through our talk now. Is just like trying to take some control over your situation and understanding that yes, things are hard and you don't control everything, but you can control some things. You can control what you consume and who you consume and how you consume things, and those things all add up to your mental state, you know, the health of your mental state.
And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, we're not fucking passengers, you know, we are the one that is driving the car of our own life. And actually, I have to make, you know, interestingly, so Paul Moore is another guy that I was speaking to earlier. Now, he was diagnosed with bipolar, and I'd be really interested in your thoughts on this. He was diagnosed with bipolar, and he now says that he had bipolar at that time, but he doesn't now, right? And the reason being is that he's, with the volume of work that he has done on himself, he said that he is a product of the stuff that's going on in his life and the stuff that he is choosing to have in his life. And he says that if he doesn't put the challenges that he chooses in his life, his brain will go looking for challenges, right? And it will go looking for other stuff that will possibly make his life harder. And I suppose what I mean by that is that actually, as you so beautifully put it, going from that place of the stuff happening to you and feeling like you're a victim in that situation versus fuck that, no, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to campaign. Suddenly in your world was the good stuff, right? And you change it. And I think that's you've radically shifted life 180 by making that choice, right?
Even in other parts of my life, like I've just got to a point now. So like I said, I lost my best friend 3 years ago, and I've been it's okay, but I've been such a victim in that I'm allowed to be a victim. It was a fucking tragedy how she died, and like it's a fucking tragedy that she is even dead, period, even if it wasn't a tragic circumstance. But it's also like there comes a point where I'm like, it's 3 years on, my life is ticking by, I'm getting old. I'm like almost cut, like allowing myself to stay in this place of like feeling sorry for myself is not doing me any favors, and I don't get a gold star. God is not giving me like a gold star for like, oh, you suffered and you really worked out. Like God is not, I'm religious, but God is not even helping me. Like I've prayed and prayed, please bring some new friends into my life, I'm lonely, please bring a boyfriend, please bring something, and nothing's coming. But you know why? Because I'm not going out and looking for it, because I'm so upset that I'm staying home every weekend. I need to fucking change that. If nothing's going to change unless I change. So now I've took it on myself. I've started volunteering. I'm going to start going to classes once I can, you know, like an art class once Corona is like kind of out of the way. But like putting myself in new social situations to kind of change my situation, because it's not going to change it's not going to change unless I about just kind of taking some control again over your life, even if it's something you feel like, I can't control the fact that my best friend died, I can't control life and death, but I can control how I kind of respond to the situation. I can be a victim, or I can choose to be like, no, I deserve better, and my friend would want me to have better, and I want myself to have better, you know.
And and that's so right. And you know, and I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Ultimately, then we sometimes feel, I don't know about you, but I feel if I spend more time thinking about this stuff, it's almost like I'm solving it, or because I spend more time trying to work it out or whatever, or worrying about it, I'm doing more good by that. But I'm not. I'm just spending more time in the darkness of that moment rather than just move the fuck on. Do you know, by moving on, I change, you know, how I feel.
I think a lot of us get really comfortable in our victimhood, and I'm there now. Like, I'm not even going to act like I'm not there. I'm there in multiple ways, in terms of being trans, in terms of losing my best friend, in terms of like being bullied growing up. Like I'm still in a comfortable in my victim status, because it's like it's hard to break out of it, but that's how you free yourself. And you have to understand that there comes a certain point that you have to take responsibility for your life. You have to take your life in your hands.
And you know what? And you can get out of that because you've done it so many times before. And it's bloody frustrating, isn't it? You know, the point is we're constantly on this cycle. We're never the happiness, and that sounds like this is about to sound really trite. Happiness is not a destination, right? You're going to get there, and then you're going to come back round. Then you're going to get there, then you're going to come back round. And I suppose, you know, the gift that you have is that you know that you've been there, and you know that you can get there again. But it takes work. It's constant work. What are the things then that really help you with that? So, for example, this Paul Moore that I was saying about, you know, he talks a lot about having, you know, doing stuff that he knows is going to make him feel great. And actually, I was talking to Kate, another lady, Kate Sevilla, as well, and she was like, you know, she does all of these things that she knows are brilliant for affecting her well-being and her energy. Her daily meditations, her yoga, or whatever. And then you get to a place and you're like, oh, I've done that for quite a long time now. Can't be bothered. I'm all right now. And that's when it starts slipping again. Is there stuff for you that you know really works?
For me, it's just about like I'm really a big list person. I love writing a list,
yes.
or like a map, almost like a mind map of like, here is where I am, here is where I want to get. How can I take productive steps to get to this point? And the practical steps of like, well, you need to start saving, you need to start getting lazy. Like it's just I'm a really big person on like lists and kind of like actual like things you can actually tick off and like actual like feel in your hands sort of thing of like, I can take these steps and it's productive.
I'm exactly the same. You know, when I'm in action, I'm at my best, right? I know that I'm moving. If I can see that I'm moving forward, and actually having that, you know, not only having that vision of where I'm going to, but also then having those ticks of accomplishment next to it, suddenly I'm feeling different, right? Yeah.
Is the first step to make you feel like, oh, I'm on my way. Like that whole thing, like spelling is a spell. Like it really does make things happen. You manifest things when you write them down. It makes it real. It makes it you believe it when you see it. So like it's really important to just like visualize what you want for yourself, and then not just visualize it and expect God to do the hard work or the universe or whatever you believe in, but expect yourself to do the hard work and like try and like tick something off your list. Even if you can't do that one point, break that one point down into another 5 points of like, I need to get some surgery. Well, I don't have the money, so start a GoFundMe, start doing like an extra job, like apply for extra job. Like you can break tasks down so that they're more like doable as well. But it's just about being productive so that you're moving towards the goal of where you want to be, whether it's for your mental health, your physical health, your social life, your love life, your work life. It's about like taking steps every day to becoming the person you want to be, to free yourself to who you are.
Oh, amen. Amen. And I suppose I've got a couple of questions on that. Do you ever look back from like from here to a year before? That journey must feel powerful, right? Like you must see that journey and think, God, if I've done that accomplishment, does that change how you feel?
I feel like, you know, I'm going to be honest and say no, like, because it's World Mental Health Day. I think it's important that we talk truthfully. I feel like I've had a year of like a dip, and I'm just getting to the point now at the end of the year where I'm like picking myself back up and being like, no, Charlie, you deserve this. You need to fight for this. Like, let's get your list book out and start writing down a list of productive things. Because it's like, it's not a Disney story. Like I said, it's not a case of like every year you go up and up. No, there's going to be dips. There's hard years. For some reason, like the grief kind of hit me extra hard this year. So like, it's kind of, you know, it's just like, so I've gone back into counseling. Like I had left counseling because I thought, oh, like I felt like I got everything I could get out of it for the grief. But like, and then I got really depressed at the start of the year, and I was like, no, I need to get
But you know why? I mean, I think that I think that we've gone from a place, I talk quite a lot about this, you know, I think we've gone from a place of, you know, extreme or high stress, you know, where we were simply doing too much pre-COVID, doing way too much, you know, a complete overwhelm, always slightly on the back foot, never feel like we do too much, but there was always stuff going on to distract us. You know, now, 6 months later, 8 months later almost, you know, we're in a place where it's extreme anxiety because we're up here, You know, all of the great stimulation, all of the great distractions are gone. And fuck me, this can be a really hard place, right? This can be a really hard place to be. And this is why we're doing this, right? This is why we're having these conversations, because more than ever, we are having to deal with our minds, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying. I'll share with you this study that I heard of. Back in 2014, they did this study where they said to people, would you rather sit with your own thoughts for 15 minutes or have an electric shock? 25% of women said they prefer an electric shock, and 2/3 of men said they would prefer an electric shock than sitting with their own minds for 15 minutes. Can you believe it?
Oh my god!
Like, these places, no. Like, it's terrifying.
Oh no!
You know,
my phone has died. Can you hear me on here on the computer?
I can't hear you.
Oh Jesus Christ! My phone has died.
Oh, hello. There you are.
Okay, I'm so sorry. My phone just died. I've plugged it in. I'm so sorry.
Let's just continue on here. Yeah, I mean, that in itself to me is, you know, so telling, isn't it? That you know, that we just don't want to live with our own thoughts, and you know why we're having more challenges than ever. So one quick one then. I suppose a couple of things, and this session has been so powerful, and actually someone's already said thank you for this live and for sharing this. You know, I can see the effect it's having. I would imagine, and I think from the conversations that we've had, you know, the effect of kind of others on your mental health. Are you and are we saying then that one of the best ways of managing that is obviously the kind of curation of what you let in? Is that your best way of dealing with that?
I think so, yeah. And I think that's in terms of, like I said, in like physical spaces, digital spaces, like in terms of like what you consume, in terms of like the people, like I said, you hang out with. Like I'm the queen of like ending friendships. Like if I feel like a friendship is not in terms of bringing something to my life, but if it's actually taking away from my life, like I'm not a bitch. I'm not going to be like, you're not bringing anything to my life, get out. But at the same time, like if someone is bringing negative to my life, so if the amount of people who like, it's more of like it's not been for a while, but like when I was in like college or school and people just bitchy, and I'm like, I don't want this negative kind of this nasty kind of toxic kind of gossip kind of negative culture in my life. So I'm like, no, I'm sorry, like I wish you well, but it's not for me. Like I don't want to be friends anymore. So I think it's really important to just understand that, again, you have control over who you hang out with and stuff.
And I think that that's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because I think at the heart of that is really genuinely kind of understanding what it is that, you know, I suppose what it is that I want life to be like, right? Or actually understanding who I am enough in order to understand, you know, what is good for me and who is good for me within that.
Yeah, that's exactly
it. Charlie, we are fading in and out, but I just want to say thank you so much for this, for talking to us. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that my internet is so bad. I don't know what's wrong with my internet today. I'm so sorry.
Oh, darling, don't be silly. Listen, what you've done already is weave some magic out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate.
And we will see you very, very soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Kate. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye, darling. See you soon. Bye.